I'm Sarah Robertson, Senior Vice President of Corporate and Public Affairs at Environics Research. I want to start today by acknowledging that we're having this conversation in Toronto, which is the traditional territory of many First Nations, including the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Chippewas, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Wendat peoples. And so today I have my colleague Max here.
My name is Max Scudra. I'm a partner at Makwate. We're a small consulting firm, small but growing consulting firm, started by our principal, JP Gladue, about a year and a half ago. The idea of what we do is trying to bridge the gap between Indigenous people, Canadian corporations, Canadian society in general, and governments.
So I think we should acknowledge right off the bat that we are both white settlers. To be having this conversation is a little bit different. So let's talk a little bit about the personal journey that it took you. How did you learn what you needed to know to have these conversations in a meaningful way with Indigenous organizations and Indigenous people?
I really knew I had no idea what I was getting into. So I went in with eyes wide open that I was completely ignorant to what the subjects and conversations I was having, and that might have helped maybe a little bit in the sense that I really knew that I didn't know what I was getting into. And I think I was fortunate because I was at an Indigenous organization to be surrounded by majority Indigenous people. I reported to JP, who is First Nations from being Winiyashi. My peers were mainly Indigenous. The senior team was Indigenous. So I really was able to take a lot of learning and soak up a lot of perspective and cultural understanding just by my surroundings, because it certainly was not my background. But I'm curious to know how did you get into it? Because you didn't have that advantage, and you certainly have come at these discussions with a tremendous empathy and openness.
Thanks, Max. I think it's about listening. So I had the opportunity to work when I first joined Environics Research on a project called the Urban Aboriginal Peoples Study, which was a big study that we undertook to understand the experiences of urban Indigenous people in Canada. And we did 2,500 interviews with Indigenous people in 10 cities across the country. They sometimes ended up being 60 minutes in length. And we were guided by an advisory council of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people who really helped us to scope the project and make sure that it was done in a respectful way. And it was from there actually that we made the connection with Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business and met ultimately you and JP. But I think the most important thing is, what I've tried to do here at Environics is make it a partnership where we provide what it is needed at the time, whether that's capacity, whether that's advice on design or data collection or advice on reporting, but it comes down to what does that Indigenous organization need? We don't necessarily have to provide all of it, but we provide what's needed at the time so that you and organizations like yours can build your capacity.